Do you ever feel like manifestation is just another thing on your to-do list that you don't have time for? Like your spiritual practice is something that you have to do? Honestly, you're not alone because I felt that way too. Something that's really changed my relationship with manifestation is blending it into my lifestyle so that no matter what I'm doing, I'm also manifesting. I call this manifestation as a lifestyle, and it's single handedly made the entire manifestation journey more enjoyable for me. And I've seen my desires show up with a lot more ease. Manifesting as a lifestyle has made manifestation go from feeling like a task to something I just naturally do because it's who I am. If you'd like to learn more about this, I've created a step by step guide for you. I'll link it in my show notes so you can check it out. You're listening to the Affirmation Addict podcast with Pyle Corley. This podcast will teach you about the power of affirmations while making manifestation easy and accessible for you in order to enhance your spiritual consciousness. Thank you so much for being here, and now it's time to get started. Hi, love. I wanted to tell you a little bit about my app, Affirm It. It's an app I've created to help you practice affirmations, manifestation, and spirituality. It has thousands of daily affirmations that you can affirm and swipe through, including exclusively curated collections for just what you're going through, from anxiety to confidence, to career growth to love, and so much more. You're going to have unlimited access to our library of meditations, visualizations, and our signature guided affirmations when you join. Affirm It is a place you can come to work on your self-improvement through our guides, practices, and journaling. The subscription is just $4.49 a month or $44 for the entire year. We can't wait to see you in the app. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Affirmation Addict podcast. My name is Pyle, and I am so happy you are here. So today I am talking all about why I'm always working on myself, because something that I recently posted about was before the new year, I did that DIY retreat I was telling you about in the last episode. And the biggest thing I noticed is I got some responses. I got some questions from people saying, hey, why are you working on yourself? Why is there more work for you to do? You've been doing this for so long. And I didn't even realize how it could come off as that at one point the work needs to be done. At one point we are done working. And I totally understood, because at first I was so caught off guard. I was like, do you expect me to be perfect? Because absolutely that won't happen. I will never stop evolving. And so today's episode is honestly just a little bit of insight and a little bit of encouragement as to what it's like to constantly work on yourself, and a little bit about my journey and my understanding of that. Now, before I dive deeper in, this is my second episode on video. So playing with a slightly different setup, and it's nighttime. I'm so not used to working or creating any content at night. So let's see how this feels. Let's see how this goes. The reason I'm not used to working at night is because I never had like bright enough lights, and I feel like it's bright right now from what I can see. And I personally, my energy actually always thrives fully at night. Tom is like going to bed, and then I am so excited and I am like wired. So this actually might be perfect. So let's see how this episode goes. But when it comes to working on myself and just the spiritual journey in general, one thing I've noticed is it can almost come off as like we are practicing spirituality, we're practicing manifestation in order to get somewhere, in order to get to a certain result. And although that in theory makes sense, it's ultimately going to be unfulfilling. It's going to feel like you're forcing yourself to do the affirmation. So one thing I invite you to think about is, if you have been on this manifestation journey and on the spiritual journey, but you find it difficult to stay consistent, is your why simply in order to get that result? Is it so result oriented that if you don't see that result coming in, you're not even motivated to continue working on yourself? And that is one thing I actually had to really take into account. Is I would always get so inspired when I had a new thing to manifest, and I had a new dream job or a soulmate or something more. But I can honestly say, at this point, all of my needs are met. All of my physical needs, all of my real world needs are met. And so my list of things I'm trying to manifest is very much so not a need. They're wants now. And it's not a bad thing. And I'm totally not judging myself or you if you're in the same boat. But what that has made me realize is I could just continue forward and continue living my life as it is, never write another affirmation. And I wouldn't even feel okay because affirmations are so part of my own sanity that they're not even results oriented. My affirmations have nothing to do with, oh, I need to get this result. My affirmations are a form of inner peace. They are a form of sanity, and they're a form of taking care of myself. Whereas in the past, probably my affirmations were a means to an end. They were a means to get a certain result that I was hoping for. Whereas once you kind of run out of things to physically manifest, it really makes you think, why do I still want to keep doing this work? Why do I still not feel good all the time? Because ultimately, those physical manifestations and physical desires can only get you so far. And post physical desires, there is still so much more life. There is so much more things that are important. There is so much more to the world and our purpose here beyond tapping into the universal abundance that we're all so excited to gain. And so one thing that I've really made clear in my own journey to myself is I will always evolve. I will always have room to get better. I will always have room to be more compassionate towards myself and others, be more loving, feel more expansive, feel better. And that's why you keep working on yourself, not because there's something to fix, not because you're broken, but because there is room for more. There's room for more expansion. There's room for a higher consciousness. There's room for you to feel better even more often. There's room for you to be less triggered. And that is one of the sole reasons why I keep working on myself, because one thing I've realized is constantly improving and loving and accepting who I am is my purpose. Because once I stop evolving, once I stop growing, my purpose is not here anymore. My purpose is not as potent as it needs to be. And we probably won't be here once we're ready to go. And I think that's one thing that's kind of scary to talk about in the spiritual world is time on earth in these bodies is limited. It's not infinite. And understanding the bigger picture and really exploring your own beliefs on the bigger picture as to why are we here and why have I come across spirituality? Why am I listening to this podcast? And being so open with yourself and being not afraid to ask yourself those kind of scary questions like, what is the purpose of it all? And from what I have personally found is the more and more I peel back, the more and more I realize my purpose is to be the best version of me. And in order to become the best version of myself, there's always room for more. There's always room for me to show up with more love. There's always room for me to show up with more abundance. There's always room for me to learn more things and spread more wisdom. And there's always more in a beautiful way, not in a way where I'm not enough, because I do feel like I am enough now. But we can be even more enough. And I think that's a very beautiful thing. And so when it comes to your spiritual journey and the work that you're putting in, try to not see it as work. Try to not see it as an effort. Try to not see it as a thing that you're fixing about yourself. Try to just see it as a way of living. Try to see this as just a natural thing that you do. And that's what I always mean when I say that manifestation is a lifestyle, is that this is a way of living. This is how we can really, really tap into our higher purpose, because I really think our higher purpose is to show up as the best versions of ourselves. And so in short, the reason we are always working on ourselves and the reason I personally think it's so important to work on myself is because I think there's always more to learn. I feel like I've been on this spiritual journey in different lenses, not constantly all the time, but since I was 12, I was first introduced to it and I loved it. And then my parents took me to meditation camp. My parents took me to all these different like religious and spiritual things. And I was exposed to meditation at a very young age. And I kid you not, I hated it. And it's one of those things, right? Like when you grow up, you're like, oh, like maybe I'll teach my kids this. And my parents did try teaching me, and I resisted so much. I learned Kriya yoga. I learned breath work when I was about 12, 13. So I already had kind of grown past a lot of programming, but I learned so much at that age. And that was just a fraction. And I've learned so much now. And every single day when I take the time to learn and to practice and to sit, I just learn so much. Like the fact that trees and plants, everything has energy and is so connected. You can play with that. You can play with connecting to your water. You can play with infusing affirmations into every area of your life. You can play with Kundalini energy and ancient gods and goddesses and past lives. Like there are so many millions of realms and ways to explore this field, this work, that I fully believe it is probably nearly impossible to learn it all and be done. And one thing I wish I understood at a much earlier age and at a much earlier part of my journey is that we're never going to be done. And not in an overwhelming way, in actually an inspiring way. In an inspiring way that we are full of so much potential that we will constantly be unraveling it, that we will constantly be tapping into it. Not in the fact that we're never going to be done and this work never ends and like what a never ending journey. Not like that. In the most inspiring way, there's no checklist that's going to finish and you'll be done with your manifestation journey or done with your spiritual journey. I really believe it is a lifelong thing and it can evolve. Like maybe right now you are super into affirmations and manifestation, but maybe in 5 years, you're going to be so disconnected to that. And that is so okay. There's no perfect path to spirituality. There's no perfect path to self-awareness and self-exploration. And that really brings me to my next point, where I think spirituality, manifestation, human design, astrology, all of these things are sort of clubbed into one big thing, when ultimately I think it is all so connected to the power of yourself and who you are and your consciousness. And when you can give yourself permission to explore that, because I think how I've seen it and how I perceive it is when I see different manifestation techniques being taught, it's very external. It's very, let's manifest a soulmate, let's manifest more money, let's manifest you flying business class. And when you do that, it's fun, it is exciting, it's very inspiring, but it's very much so something that lives outside of you. And I feel like I was saying earlier, like I have manifested all of the physical things that felt very important to me. I did manifest my soulmate, my dream home, all of these things that felt like my baseline needs. And now that those are done, it is such an interesting place to be in that I think no one talks about, where now what? And that's when it comes back to yourself. And that's where I am currently in the space of having to and wanting to connect with myself and my own energy, because it's like, I know I haven't figured it all out yet. I know there's more. I know there's so much more that I probably have zero awareness of. And so what does that look like? What does getting to a very safe and stable place in your physical reality look like? And how does that unfold and create space for deeper realms in the energetic space, in your spiritual space? And that's what I'm exploring now. So what that means to continuously work on yourself. And I am working on finding different vocabulary, because I know that working and on yourself can have so much weight and heavy energy attached to it. I am working on trying to find better words. But for now, and just for continuing talking's sake, the reason I am always working on myself is because I really think that's our purpose. I think our purpose is to reconnect and deepen our relationships with ourselves and the energetics and vibrations in this universe. Like, I really think that is our ultimate goal. And once we can create a connection with ourselves, then we tap into our unlimited potential. You tap into the sense of who you are and the amount of inspiration, the amount of clarity that comes from who you are is honestly magnetic. And that's when you see so many people becoming healers and coaches and life coaches. It's because they have built a connection with themselves that most of the time, if you talk to most of these people who are genuine healers and coaches here for the expansion, they will agree that we are always evolving. We are always trying to work on ourselves and expand our own energies, because not only is that deepening our own relationship, but we are raising the collective consciousness. And so I think it's very fascinating when people look at spirituality and look at manifestation as a checklist, because I think that is so unfair, because you're creating room for disappointment. So I hope if at one point or before this episode that you felt that manifestation was a checklist and it is a means to an end, which you're not wrong. Like, it is very much so portrayed that way. If it feels like it's a means to an end, I hope this episode can help you understand that it is part of the journey and it is a lifestyle, because I think it is a beautiful lifestyle for all of us to live. And I think the last thing that I really want to reiterate is all of this work, all of this time and attention that you are putting into your journey, it's not because you're broken. It's actually the opposite. It's probably because you are so self-aware and you are so ready to evolve and step into the next best version of yourself that this work is coming up, and it's coming up strong. And you might not have seen it in your family. You might not see anybody else in your world doing this work and putting in this work, and that can feel lonely or it can feel discouraging. But what I want to remind you is that you're not doing this to fix yourself. You're not doing this because you're broken. In fact, it's the opposite. You are doing this because you are the one who is here to break those boundaries, to break those patterns, to raise the collective consciousness. So give yourself the acknowledgement and the credit, and hold space for yourself for doing that, because it is deep. It is intense. It can be very uncomfortable. And I want you to know that I see you for the work that you're doing. I want you to know that it's not going unnoticed. It's not enough. The work you're putting in, the effort you're putting in, the things that you're going through, they are all unfolding for a higher purpose in order for you to show up as the best version of yourself. And I hope that you can carry that forward whenever it feels like this work is too much, or this work is just not enough or not worth it. I hope that you can come back and listen to this and remember that the work that you're putting in, the effort, the time, it is all worth it. And you're doing a really, really, really good job, and you're doing it perfect. And everything is unfolding in the timing that works for you, because it can oftentimes feel like we have these timelines in our head and things aren't going according to those timelines. But just remember, time is an illusion. Time is something we've created. So if you could release that pressure of time, would that judgment still be there? So be there for yourself. Be the one who supports yourself. And if you do need more support, one thing I really want to acknowledge is one thing I didn't understand is the power of asking for help, the power of having a spiritual team. I, for a while, was like, I am the creator of my reality. Me, I'm in control. This is all my responsibility. And for a long time, I didn't ask for help. I didn't invest in that many things. I really was like, no, I can do this. Like, I am powerful. I can do this. But at one point, there might come a time, and maybe there won't, where you feel like you don't know where to go, but you know you need to move forward. And my invitation to you is, at that time, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to look for a mentor. Don't be afraid to invest in something that you've always been keeping your eye on. Don't be afraid to go to a healer you've always wanted to work with. Don't be afraid to lean on oracle cards or crystals, even if it's not a different person, or connect to your own inner guides. All I'm saying is, you don't have to do this alone, and your definition of a spiritual team, your definition of who and what is helping you grow and evolve is completely up to you. But I do fully acknowledge, at one point, I thought I could do it all. I thought I was invincible, and I thought I could figure it all out. And at some point there was a threshold that I hit where I was like, okay, this is my maximum at this point. And if I want to evolve at the speed I'm seeking to evolve, I should probably get some wisdom. I should probably learn from people who've already gone through what I'm trying to go through, and learn from people who've already done what I'm trying to do, and see how they can help and see what advice they can offer. And I think you hear from the online coaching world, from the online digital course world, you hear, right? Invest and get a coach or hire a mentor. But that always really, really felt disconnected to me until I understood that you're hiring someone because you don't actually have to have all the answers. And maybe eventually you would come to that answer. But if you feel like you want to bypass some of those lessons, you want to bypass some of the ups and downs, and maybe you won't, but maybe just hear an insight that would take you much longer or a much more chaotic journey to get to, then I think that's priceless. If someone else can share their genuine wisdom with you, their genuine energetic learnings with you, I think that is something that is so helpful that I didn't really understand until really recently, actually. I really started fully diving into asking for help and getting support. And so I hope that's helpful. I liked doing this nighttime episode. I enjoyed chatting with you guys at night. Please, any feedback you guys have about the new format of the podcast. I am still getting used to talking, looking at a camera, having a camera on me while also trying to make sure I hit the notes. I typically just wing it, but I always have a few notes that I really want to get across. So any feedback on the podcast is always welcome. I am so happy you're here. I'm grateful for your energy and just for you watching and listening. It means the world to me, and I hope you have a beautiful day. I'll talk to you soon. Bye. I always get a ton of questions in my DMs from people asking how I can manifest X. The truth is, you can really manifest anything as long as it's for the greatest good. And if you're having trouble manifesting something right now, or you feel stuck on your journey, I have a really beautiful resource I've made for you. It's a free quiz. It's called the Manifestation Archetype Quiz. And it's something that I've created so you can find out your manifestation style to give you more clarity on your spiritual journey. After taking the quiz, you're going to receive the best resources for your specific archetype to help you attract your desires based on where you're at and what you want to create. So you can find a link to the quiz in the show notes, or just head to my website at www.affirmation-addict.com. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If this episode resonated with you, it would mean the world to me if you could rate and review the podcast and share it on your social media so I know to keep creating episodes that are inspiring you to manifest. I'm so genuinely grateful for the time we shared today, and I'd love for you to join the community by following @AffirmationAddict on Instagram. To continue diving into spirituality and manifestation, head over to my website, affirmation-addict.com. Until next time, I'm sending you so much love and so much healing energy.